After 50, many men live a silent conflict. Desire is still there, the mind wants it, but the penis is slow to respond or responds without firmness. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the most frustrating part is not understanding why. It's not a lack of interest, it's not simply age. It's the body failing where it used to respond automatically. I am Dr. David Miller, a urologist, and one of the most common sentences I hear in my office is, "Doctor, my erection is not reliable anymore." And almost always the man thinks the problem starts in the penis. But the truth is that in most cases, the problem starts before the blood even gets there. After 50, the male body wakes up in a different state. During the night, you lose fluids, the blood becomes thicker, and the vessels wake up less flexible. That directly affects erections because the penis depends on something very specific: fast flow, adequate pressure, and blood vessels that can relax. If that system is slow at the start of the day, penile response suffers. The common mistake is trying to compensate with stimulation: coffee, anxiety, expectation, mental force. But erections do not come from stimulation. Erections come from efficient circulation. When blood meets resistance, it may enter, but it doesn't maintain rigidity. That is why so many men describe weaker erections, unstable erections, or erections that fade halfway through. What almost no doctor explains clearly is that many cases of mild to moderate erectile dysfunction do not begin with hormones or nerves, but with something basic being ignored every day. When the body is dry on the inside, the penis is one of the first organs to expose it. It doesn't fail by choice, it reflects the condition of the vascular system. Some men began to notice that when they correct this simple detail early in the morning, the entire body responds differently. It's not magic, it's better blood flow, vessels relaxing more easily, and the penis responding with less effort and less anxiety. Today, you will understand why this basic factor is ignored when people talk about erectile dysfunction, how it directly affects penile response after 50, and why so many men chase complex solutions while missing the foundation. Before we continue, check if you are already subscribed to the channel. And now comment very directly. Write erection if you feel firmness is not the same anymore. Or write circulation if you believe the problem starts before blood reaches the penis. To understand why erections change so much after 50, you have to accept a truth that almost no man hears clearly. The penis does not fail on its own. It is a vascular thermometer. And over the years, the system that delivers blood to it goes through major changes. After 50, the male body experiences a gradual reduction in blood vessel elasticity. Arteries become stiffer, less responsive, and the endothelium, the inner lining of the vessels, becomes less efficient. This endothelium releases nitric oxide, the molecule that tells the vessel to relax and allow rapid blood entry into the penis. When that release weakens, erection quality drops. At the same time, something many men ignore happens. Plasma volume tends to decrease. In simple terms, blood becomes more concentrated and thicker. That makes flow harder, especially through small arteries like the penile arteries. Blood still arrives, but it meets resistance. The result is exactly what many men describe. The erection starts but doesn't last, or it requires intense stimulation to happen. Mild chronic dehydration makes this worse. Not the obvious thirst you feel, but a daily lack of enough water to keep blood fluid and tissues well oxygenated. With less water circulating, the body goes into conservation mode. The priority becomes the brain and the heart. Sexual function moves into second place. Another important factor is nighttime recovery. After 50, deep sleep decreases, and deep sleep is when the body repairs vessels, adjusts hormones, and restores vascular function. If the body goes into the night already dehydrated, that repair becomes even weaker. The next day, the system wakes up at a disadvantage, and erections feel it quickly. That is why so many men say, "Doctor, my erection is not predictable anymore." It's not a lack of masculinity. It's a vascular system working under constant friction, and as long as that friction isn't reduced, any attempt to stimulate becomes pure effort. Understanding this completely changes how we view erectile dysfunction after 50. Not as an isolated defect, but as a direct reflection of circulation, blood fluidity, and the body's recovery. If this explanation is helping you understand what is happening with your erections, like the video now, that helps the channel bring this kind of clear, honest information to other men who still think the problem is only psychological, when in reality it starts much earlier, in the silent functioning of the body. There is a silent detail that directly interferes with male erections after 50 and is almost never explained clearly: the body's internal environment. We are not talking about desire, stimulation, or fantasy, but something more basic: the balance between acidity, inflammation, and tissue oxygenation. With aging, the male body tends to enter a state called mild chronic metabolic acidosis. This does not mean an acute disease, but a slow accumulation of acidity in the internal environment caused by inflammatory diet, inactivity, stress, poor sleep, and especially insufficient hydration. This more acidic environment directly affects blood vessel function. When the body's pH shifts toward a more acidic state, the endothelium, that inner layer of the arteries, becomes less efficient. It releases less nitric oxide, vessels relax less, and blood faces more resistance as it flows. In the penis, this has an immediate impact, because penile arteries are small and extremely sensitive to chemical changes. In addition, acidity promotes silent inflammation. Not the inflammation that swells or hurts, but constant microscopic inflammation that makes vessels stiffer and less responsive. Blood still tries to reach the penis, but it arrives with less speed, less pressure, and less ability to stay there. As a result, erections lose firmness and stability. Another factor people rarely mention is tissue oxygenation. For an erection to hold, it is not enough for blood to arrive. It has to be well oxygenated. In an inflamed, more acidic environment, cells use oxygen less efficiently. Erectile tissue behaves like a tired sponge. It does not fully expand, it does not hold pressure, and it does not respond with strength. That is why many men describe the feeling that the penis doesn't fill up like before, or feels half dead, even with enough stimulation. It is not mental blockage, it is tissue working under unfavorable chemical conditions. When the body stays in this state for years, erectile dysfunction develops progressively and seems to appear out of nowhere. But in reality, it is the final result of an internal environment that stopped supporting circulation, oxygenation, and proper vascular response. Understanding this relationship between pH, inflammation, and oxygen completely changes how we see erections after 50. They stop being an isolated event and become a direct reflection of balance, or imbalance, in the body as a whole. This is exactly where water enters the story. Not as a trivial detail, but as one of the most underestimated factors in male erectile dysfunction after 50. Most men associate hydration only with thirst or kidney function, but from a urological and vascular perspective, water determines something much more decisive: the quality of the blood that reaches the penis. Blood is not just a liquid that circulates, it has viscosity, density, and oxygen carrying capacity. When the body is mildly dehydrated, and extremely common in older men, blood becomes thicker. That means greater resistance to flow, especially in small arteries like penile arteries. Erections require fast, high-volume flow. If blood is thicker, it arrives slower and with less pressure. The result is not total erectile failure, but something many men recognize immediately: difficulty maintaining firmness, loss of rigidity during sex, or the need for constant stimulation to keep the erection. In addition, water directly supports nitric oxide production and action. This chemical messenger works best in a hydrated environment. In mild dehydration, the body prioritizes vital organs and reduces the efficiency of processes considered secondary, such as sexual response. The penis pays the price again. There is also another critical point: plasma volume. When water intake is low, total circulating blood volume decreases. Less volume means less filling capacity of the erectile chambers. It is like trying to inflate a tire with low pressure available. It inflates a little, but it won't hold. Many men over 50 live in this state for years without realizing it. They drink coffee, alcohol, soda, but very little real water. The body adapts, but erections begin failing quietly. Not because of low desire, not because of age alone, but because a hydraulic system is operating at the edge. When you understand the penis is a highly sensitive vascular organ, it becomes clear why something as simple as water can change erectile response. Not because it stimulates, but because it restores basic conditions for blood flow to work as it should. At that point, erectile dysfunction stops looking mysterious and starts looking like a clear sign that the body is not receiving even the minimum it needs to function fully. Now comes the part that separates those who truly see improvement from those who say, "It didn't work." The correct way to use water. Because hydration is not drinking a huge amount at once, and it's not carrying a bottle all day without strategy. For the male body after 50, timing, distribution, and consistency make all the difference. The first common mistake is drinking most water only at night or only with meals. That overloads digestion, increases bathroom trips, and does not improve penile circulation. The body needs water before vascular demand rises, not after. The ideal starting point is right after waking. During sleep, the body loses fluid through breathing and sweating, and blood is more concentrated in the morning. Drinking water then helps reduce blood viscosity and prepares circulation for the day. No need to overdo it. 1 to 2 large glasses are enough to reactivate flow. Throughout the morning and early afternoon, water should be spaced out. Small amounts, multiple times. This keeps plasma volume stable, prevents thickening spikes, and supports oxygen delivery to tissues, including the penis. Drinking large volumes at once does not create the same effect. Another important point is the timing of the last larger intake. Many men drink very little all day and try to compensate at night. That disrupts sleep, fragments hormonal recovery, and does not help erections. The ideal approach is to reduce intake in the 2 hours before bedtime and keep most hydration earlier, up to late afternoon. In terms of frequency, the body responds better to daily regularity than to well-hydrated days, alternating with dry days. Erections do not improve from a single event. They improve when the internal environment stays favorable for weeks. There is also a detail rarely mentioned. Excessive cold water can cause temporary vasoconstriction. For older men, room temperature water is often better tolerated and more effective for circulation. In summary, correct hydration does not force immediate results. It removes silent obstacles that were preventing blood from reaching the penis with adequate pressure. When done consistently, the body becomes more predictable, erections become firmer, and unexpected failures decrease. This is the kind of simple adjustment that does not look impressive, but over time it can completely change how the male sexual system functions. Now we reach the part many men ignore, but that determines whether water helps or harms erections. Hydration without strategy can also create problems, especially in older men. Water is essential, but after 50, the body no longer handles extremes the same way it did before. The first common mistake is drinking very large volumes all at once. This can dilute key electrolytes like sodium and potassium, interfere with nerve conduction, and cause weakness, dizziness, and even low blood pressure. For erections, this is negative, because the penis depends on a stable vascular system, not sudden swings. Another frequent mistake is using water as a way to cancel out bad habits. Some men drink more water thinking it neutralizes excess sugar, alcohol, or salt. It does not. What happens instead is kidney overload and greater mineral loss, which can worsen fatigue, reduce physical performance, and indirectly affect sexual response. Timing also matters. Drinking too much water at night breaks sleep with repeated bathroom trips. Poor sleep lowers functional testosterone, worsens vascular recovery, and raises cortisol. That creates the exact internal environment that sabotages erections the next day. Now, who needs special caution? Men with heart failure, kidney problems, fluid retention history, or those taking diuretics should not increase water intake without medical guidance. In these cases, excess fluid can cause swelling, circulatory overload, and worsening blood pressure, all of which directly harm sexual health. Another group that should be careful is men with very low blood pressure or frequent dizziness. Too much water can lower blood pressure further and make it harder to maintain penile blood flow during an erection. There is also a silent mistake, replacing real thirst signals with constant, automatic drinking. The body still knows how to signal when it needs water. Ignoring those signals and drinking out of obligation creates imbalance, not benefit. The key point is this: effective hydration is not excess, it is precision. Water supports erections when it improves blood fluidity, oxygenation, and vascular response. When used poorly, it can disrupt sleep, electrolytes, blood pressure, and overall performance. Understanding these limits is what turns water into a real ally for male sexual health after 50, and prevents a simple adjustment from becoming a new silent problem. When the body starts operating with more efficient circulation again, something changes that goes far beyond erections. The man stops living in constant alert mode. Anxiety decreases, mental effort drops, and physical response happens more naturally. Not because he forced the result, but because the body finally has the conditions to respond. The big shift after 50 is not chasing potency. It is restoring predictability. When blood flow improves, plasma volume is adequate, and vessels can relax at the right time, the penis stops being a weak point and becomes part of a system that works together. Erections no longer need to be tested, monitored, or controlled. They happen because the internal environment allows it. This is the most common mistake in how many men think about erectile dysfunction, treating it as an isolated problem. In practice, erections are an honest reflection of vascular health, hydration, sleep, and recovery. When these pillars are misaligned, no stimulation fixes it. When they begin to align, the body responds without effort. Water, in everything you have seen here, is not a magic solution. It is a foundation. It does not create performance, but it removes one of the main silent brakes on erections after 50: thick blood, slow circulation, and lack of sustained pressure. When that improves, the penis simply returns to doing what it always knew how to do. Even more important is the mindset shift. The man stops searching for shortcuts and starts caring for how the body truly functions. He understands sexual health does not begin in the intimate moment, but hours before, days before, and how the body is treated. That awareness restores something many thought they lost: calm confidence without pressure. If this content helped you see erections in a clearer, more honest way, subscribe to the channel now to keep receiving direct medical explanations without fantasy. Like this video, it strengthens the channel and helps this kind of information reach more men. And watch the other videos on the channel where we go deeper into topics directly connected to everything you saw here. I will end here. Take care of your body, respect the signals it gives you, and I will see you in the next video.